Hi, everybody. Welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventures. Just Dave here. Today, I'm talking about the movie Fremont. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you have not seen the movie and you aren't concerned about spoilers, I would suggest you go and watch the movie first before you watch this review. Fremont is a movie about a young Afghan woman who works in a Chinese fortune cookie factory or making fortune cookies. One day, she decides to put her phone number in a fortune cookie, hoping to meet someone, I suppose. She was also an interpreter. There's a lot going on here. But as far as what I liked about the movie, overall, I thought the cast was great, particularly Anita Wally Zada as the main character, Donya. I thought she was very good. This is the first thing she's ever done. She's a young Afghan woman. She did a great job. I really liked Greg Turkington as Dr. Anthony, the weird, crazy psychiatrist that she goes to. Jeremy Allen White, of course, is Daniel. I've been a fan of his since Shameless, and not to mention The Bear as well. And I really liked Hilda Schmelling as Joanna, her weird friend. The opening of the movie was great. You got to see these sort of machines making stuff, which I really enjoyed, and the way that it was shot. It had this sort of almost industrial film kind of look, or like a how it's made kind of thing. And then once they revealed it was fortune cookies. I've always loved fortune cookies. I eat Chinese food once a week, I think, and I've always been sort of fascinated by the idea of people who make fortune cookies. I'm sure other people have done similar things about that, but every time I like it, it's interesting. I thought the cinematography was really good. It was by a woman named Laura Valadao. It's first, I don't think she had much else to her credit before this, but first thing I've seen of hers for sure. I thought it was good. I liked it. It was very nice. There was a lot of really cool shots of just the area of Fremont and San Francisco and the city, and just, very interesting. I liked it. The music was overall pretty good. Mahmood Shricker was the name of the person who did the music. I liked it as well. I like the overall premise. The idea of a woman who's an Afghan interpreter who worked with the United States Army to help them to get her citizenship to come to, or at least her visa to come to America. And then the way she's sort of shunned by at least some people, some of her peers and some other Afghan people for helping the enemy. So that was very interesting. And she's got insomnia where she can't sleep. And she's got all these sort of friends who are all kind of wacky and weird, but mostly good people. I enjoyed it. I liked her boss. I thought he was really cool too. I didn't put down the actor's name, but he was fun and seemed like a really nice guy. I really like the humor in this. There's a lot of really funny parts that had me laughing out loud. When her boss gives her the head massager, for example, it was really funny. It's because I have almost the exact same head massager, and then he's like, "Yeah, it feels better if other people do it, but I won't because it's inappropriate." The fact that I think that guy's wife, but also her boss, charged her for coffee just out of the coffee pot, and the machine is broken, so she's like $2.50 for a cup of coffee. That's ridiculous. There was a lot of those silly things there. Her friend just being like, "Yeah, I'm going on a blind date with this guy. Next step is moving in together." It's like you haven't even met this guy yet. So that was funny. I really liked her therapist. I thought he had some really funny stuff in there with I made my own fortunes and his obsession with White Fang. That was all really good stuff. All the stuff about, like I said earlier, her being a translator and the way that guy treated her like a traitor, that really worked well for me. And I liked how upset she got. That scene where she kind of looks straight at the camera for an unnervingly long amount of time and then kind of yells at the guy who doesn't even come out and say anything about it. But yeah, that was very frustrating and also very interesting to sort of say, you sided with the traitors or something. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess America was the bad guys there, but also, I mean, so was the Taliban. So but either I understand where they're coming from for sure. I liked there's sort of a lot of these cool, interesting sort of discussions. Like the one guy who was always smoking on the balcony talks about how it seemed like the stars didn't move back home, but they're always moving here all the time. I didn't necessarily exactly get what that was because I'm like, maybe the stars don't appear to move as much there because of its location on the globe or something. I don't exactly understand the analogy. I mean, obviously it's two different worlds and that's what he's comparing. But it was interesting though. I liked it, and I like the old man where he's obsessed with this show and you got to watch this show, you got to watch this show, and then once she's kind of talking about it, he's like, yeah, I don't care anymore. And he stops watching it. It was all interesting, and there's a lot of cool, interesting kind of little character moments like that I really enjoyed. First, what I disliked about the movie, I don't know if exactly I disliked it, but things that I can see other people having issues with. The movie's in black and white. It's in a 4:3 format, or the kind of square box format like old TV shows would be in. It's subtitled and it's in multiple languages. And I will say, for the most part, I don't mind black and white. I don't mind subtitled. I don't mind 4:3 format, or 4:3 format. But there was at least one time where I noticed I was a little distracted by reading the subtitles, and I just watching a movie with subtitles is a slightly different experience than watching a movie without. So there are times where, at least for me, I would be a little distracted by reading, and I wouldn't maybe be able to pay as much attention to what was going on the screen. And I'm a decent reader. I don't have any dyslexia or anything like that. But yeah, I do think also, as much as I did like the cinematography here, I thought there were some really cool establishing shots and some really cool shots of the city. Most of the shots, other than the ones like directly behind our main character here as she's walking, Donya, are just static shots. They're all like mid shots. There's no close-ups. There's no far shots. There's no zooms. There's no movement really. There's very little movement of the camera at all, which is fine. And in some ways, it was almost like Clerks, I guess, black and white, just static shots. But it is a little boring. It's a little, especially with the black and white too, which again I don't mind, but with all of that, it's very, and the movie itself is very slow. It kind of takes a while to get going. I'm kind of like wondering because the inciting incident, I suppose, is her putting her number in the fortune cookie, or maybe her getting that job, but then it takes a while for anything to kind of happen because of it. It is very weird too. There's just, I don't know, the way people interact with each other and the way they talk is very odd, and there's just some things that a lot of stuff is left unsaid, which makes for an odd experience. Like there's this karaoke scene where her friend, they're like sitting there, and then her friend just gets up, doesn't say anything, doesn't explain what she's doing, just gets up, turns on the karaoke machine and like a strobe light thing, and then sings this song with her back to Donya, I believe. And then at first I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be a weird, cringy scene, but then it goes on, and I'm like, oh, I guess no, they're playing this straight. This is supposed to be serious, I guess. I'm not sure. And actually, the song is fine, and her singing wasn't terrible by any means. But to me, it came across as like an awkwardly comedic scene. And then they cut to Donya, and she's got 2 tears running down her face, and I'm like, oh, okay, that was supposed to. And I guess in a way it was. It kind of worked for me, but it mostly was just awkward for me. And there's a lot of awkward dialogue, just the way that people talk. And some of it, too, might be a translation issue, because sometimes, there's more nuance to the language and its original sort of way that it's said. And I feel like, too, there's just a lot of times in this movie where I'm like, okay, or at least at the end, I guess, I'm like, what the hell actually happened here? Like, what is going on? Like, there's a point where she's talking to her therapist, and he's reading White Fang, and he starts crying because he gets so emotional about it, and she's like, oh yeah, I like that story, I can really relate to White Fang because I'm an immigrant too. And I feel like she was just telling him what he wanted to hear. I don't think she was really, I mean, maybe she was, I don't know. And so in some ways it seems like she is just kind of working for other people, or kind of doing stuff to make other people happy, and she doesn't really have much of a self-actualization here, I don't think. Like, and part of the big thing is she's an insomniac. She can't really sleep. So did she ever get sleep? Wait, was she supposed to be sleeping at the end when she was watching the train? Is that what I missed? Am I dumb? I might be dumb. Did she quit her job? Did she like quit that job in Fremont or San Francisco, and then move up to Bakersfield or wherever this mechanic shop was, and then go work as his second mechanic or something? Or I don't. Okay. And the ending I thought was a little unsatisfying, because like, again, I would have been satisfied with her sleeping. And maybe that's what it was. Now that I realize, maybe I'm dumb and that's what that was supposed to be, and I just missed something there. But yeah, with her finally getting some sleep in bed, it would have been great for me. Maybe the alarm clock goes off and she turns it off and goes back to sleep, or something like that. Or even just kind of more ending up with Jeremy Allen White, because at least that would have been something. Although even then, I think it seems like maybe the arc she has is she's lonely, and then she meets a guy, and that's kind of her. Now she's okay, but that seems kind of, I don't know, badly thought out. And I do think too, there's a bit of an age difference between the two. Jeremy Allen White is like 32. I'm not exactly sure how old she was, but I found an article that said when she was cast, she was 22. So she might be a little older now. He might have been a few years younger when they filmed it, but still, 8-10 years is kind of a big age gap, especially for somebody who's supposed to be kind of like a first love, I assume, or first kind of adult kind of relationship. I don't know. And maybe there wasn't even supposed to be a relationship there. Maybe I'm just doing that because I assume that's what they would do. Also, I think it's not a great name, Fremont. When I first was looking at movies, what I wanted to watch this week, I'm like, oh, I'd heard it was good. Some people say it was like one of the best movies of the year. And I'm like, cool, let's check it out. I would always forget what the hell it's called. And then finally, as even I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I wonder where this takes place. And then they mentioned San Francisco. I'm like, oh, Fremont, California. I've heard of that. But it could have been another Fremont. I didn't know that it was a city. It could have been a school. It could have been a person. It could have been a number of other things. So yeah, I think, maybe a name that explains a little bit more of the plot is would have been better. But I'm sure maybe to people in California, Fremont means something, that evokes something in them other than just, oh, I think I've heard of that before, which is what it does for me. Other than that, the movie is directed by a guy named Babak Jalali. There we go. He's an Iranian dude. This is his fourth movie. His first thing that he did was a short called Haydar, an Afghan in Tehran. And it won the BAFTA for Best Short Film. He also did something called Frontier Blues, Radio Dreams, which won the Hivos Tiger Award, which is the top honor at the International Film Festival of Rotterdam. And a movie before this he did called Land. I have not seen any of those. I feel like I've heard of Land, though. And maybe, I don't know why. I should look. But yeah, it was written by him and a woman named Carolina Cavalli. She is an Italian woman. Her only credit before this is a movie called Amanda, which is an Italian movie that also, I believe, was awards type thing. So yeah, there's a lot of credits here. There's a lot of bona fides, accolades that these people have going into it, which I think, once I saw that and I saw, you can see all the things on the screen. There's Sundance, South by Southwest, some other thing that I can't make out. Yeah, I was hearing it's the best movie of the year. It's got a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes for the critics and an 83% for the audience. So yeah, once I saw this, I'm like, well, I'm not going to see the Taylor Swift movie this weekend. So it was between this and a couple other ones that I don't remember the name of, the Mill one and the one about the young girl and the youth pastor. And this one seemed funny. I saw the trailer and there's some funny stuff in the trailer. It seemed almost like a Napoleon Dynamite style of humor where it's kind of quirky and weird and stuff. And so I'm like, all right, cool, I'm down. I like that. And I like Jeremy Allen White. So I'm like, there we go. My choice has been made. But yeah, watching the movie, I will say it is funny and it is a very wry, very kind of dry sense of humor. And where, the jokes aren't very obvious, But it is also, I'd say, more like Napoleon Dynamite and maybe more like a Jim Jarmusch film, which a lot of people have said. And also because it's a black and white, like a lot of his movies, and a little bit like Roma, although I don't remember Roma that well. Maybe I'm just thinking because it's in black and white. It was also about immigrants, but yeah. So a couple things I did wonder, once I did realize that, oh yeah, Fremont is a city in California I've heard of. Her therapist mentions she lives in Fremont, but she works in San Francisco. So I'm like, how far is that? I don't know, it's about an hour away. It's about an hour, and I don't know. I don't think she drives, so I think she probably even longer by bus or whatever. And then the guy who she goes to meet, the deer, is in Bakersfield, which again I've heard of Bakersfield, but I don't know where any of this stuff is. It's 4 hours away from Fremont to Bakersfield. So she drove 4 hours to go meet this guy, the deer, thinking it was a boyfriend thing. And then realizing, of course, spoilers, that it was something her boss had ordered and didn't want to pay the shipping for. So yeah, I did like also with the psychiatrist's fortunes, he reads that one about, oh, a ship in harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are for, which is obviously an old saying. And he's like, yep, these are all original. And I did notice the only one I could catch when I was watching it was there's one that says something like, a stranger is just a friend you haven't talked to yet. And I'm like, that's basically from A Streetcar Named Desire. Stranger's a friend you haven't met yet. And then I actually paused and went through and read them all. And they all seem to be ones that are basic. I couldn't say specifically what I know them from, but they mostly seem to be well-known old sayings or slightly, there's a lot of just, jokes about too, like, oh, not all cookies have fortunes or something like that. Or a wise man doesn't listen to, what a cookie says or silly stuff like that. But either way, it was fun. I really did like that character. But I think overall for the movie, I wanted to like it. I went into it hearing great things and hearing it was great. And I thought the trailer looked really fun. And at the beginning, I was like, yes, I love this movie. This is great. I get it. I get why people say it's so great. But I think at the end, I was just a little dissatisfied just because, I don't know, maybe I just wanted, if you are going to give a sort of this happy ending, maybe make it a little more happy, a little more obvious, or I don't know, I guess I wanted something a little more different, a little interesting. I thought at some point maybe she was going to turn out she was in love with the other Afghan woman, and that would be kind of like hey, that's an interesting story there, but I don't know. And even like the Jeremy Allen White character, I like him as an actor, but he seemed kind of boring to me. And I guess the idea is supposed to be that like they're both awkward and they're both weird, but like, I don't know, they really don't know each other at all. And so, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those, I want to like it, and I do think it's got a lot of potential, and I see why people like it. I also see why people don't like it. And I'm actually surprised that the audience Rotten Tomato score is so high, because most people seem to really like it. Although I feel like most people who are going to watch this movie are people who are going to like this type of movie. But I did see at least one review that was like, "How does this have an 84 or 87%? This is boring. Nothing happens." And I'm like, I can see people saying that as well, for sure. But I liked it. I didn't love it. I thought it was good. I think as far as my score, it's going to be a 7 out of 10 on this one. So if you saw the movie, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great night, and I will see you here again next week.